I'd be remiss to not say this is about you all. This is about you all. It's all about the artists, the arts, creativity, and just inspiring. So this is only a pilot. This is only a launch, another part of a launching pad for these individuals in their careers, although they are accomplishing their own right. We're just here to be of assistance and be of service. So again, I'm Michael Russell. I appreciate each and every one of the individuals that came today.
Oh yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of what Michael was saying about how we got here, I'll explain a little bit about the painting. I don't know if you guys were able to see Readers Are Leaders out in the front, in the lobby, but when I was approached to create the painting, and I have my notes here because I just don't want to just fly off the top. Sometimes I just go other places. When I was approached to create the painting that would be turned into a library card, I was deeply honored. First of all, I want to thank Hallie. Are you any? Oh, there she is. Great, I appreciate you for giving me an opportunity, and yeah, and also the whole library system. I appreciate you guys. Of course, I appreciate you, Tracy. Appreciate you, Ali, for allowing the work to be in the branch, and everyone else who was a part of making that happen. I quickly began creating something that spoke to the current events centered around censorship, especially the nationwide talk around book bans, critical race theory, and the list goes on and on. I wanted to create something that our young people in our communities could connect with, and stemming from just history, the things that I studied in college, and also the things that I go through in my everyday life, seeing my children every day, seeing just the community that I work with, not be represented on items and different things that we also fight for in art. And that's one of the reasons why I created the library card in the way that I did it. Started to really think about the effects of our community, especially our children. Also, it spoke to how powerful books can be and how we can unlock many things with information inside of the books, and how many of those leaders changed their lives with just learning to read and comprehend. The short thought led me to create the painting that you see out there, Readers Are Leaders. Now I have one more thing to say about it, and then we can get this show on the road, because it's not about me, it's about these guys here. Also, I want to say a huge thanks to Janice Small and Pam. Somewhere, I see Janice back there, Pam. I want to say thank you guys for also being a huge part of putting this together as well. Of course, my partner, Michael Russell, I appreciate you for being there, always having my back through everything that happens. But also, gotta say, last but not least, thank you, Deidre, for being a huge part of just my career and everything that's been going on in the community, and continue to doing the great work, so I appreciate you. And also Jeremy, who is the leader of Assembly of the Arts, I appreciate you. Last but not least, I'll just end it like this. When I was alerted that it was some pushback about the art, I was disappointed, but quickly refocused my energy to find a way to turn the negative energy about the painting into a positive one. That leads us here today, and we are sharing this moment right now today to continue a moment in art to share with these beautiful poets, and we will possibly continue this in other spaces, other places, but today we're going to share this space that we have today with these phenomenal artists up here in front. And so I'll be quiet. I'll pass it over to Tracy, and she will get the program started.
Thank you, Anton and Michael. You know what? Thank you for reminding me. I think of Janice Small's team as part of the library. So yes, Janice Small and Associates, they are wonderful. They are also a part of this collaboration, and we appreciate everybody for doing, showing up and doing their part in the memorial. So now I'm going to turn this over to Ali. Many of you have known or know Ali Boyd. He is the manager of this branch. He is the nucleus of this little operation here. And, you know.
Thank you, Tracy. And thank you all for being here. Again, this is a fantastic occasion. It's one of several that we're facilitating. We've already done one program dealing with visual artists that we had a panel discussion for some months ago. This is the second one, and who knows what the possibilities are from here. So we're going to try to continue these types of art programs. We do that anyway at this library. We are an arts-based program library here. We have poetry every Monday. We got some of my poetic power folks out there. Raise your hands real quick. See, we have poets in the house. They're here to see even more established poets, so we'll say that, or accomplished poets, and everybody is striving to become an accomplished poet, even in our poet program each Monday. For first, I want to say some housekeeping things. Restrooms are back at the entrance. If you didn't see them, it's a little yellow hallway. We just want to make sure everybody knows that. And we have a fire exit right there, just in case. Secondly, we have other programs here at the library, including our new Innovation Center. I want to make sure I say that because it is brand new. It took a lot of hard work and is on the opposite side of the library. Please go and check it out before you leave. It's based on textiles. So I know if you know maker spaces, it's about creating your own thing, becoming an entrepreneur, gaining skills, that kind of thing. So please go check that out. I would be remiss if I did not say that. Also, the painting, and I think you mentioned it before, this painting with the side without the library logo on it is actually at the very entrance, straight from the entrance, if you did not see it. It's past the little DVD area. It is a permanent installation on the walls here, and we are absolutely honored to have it. Second, going along with that is these library cards were very limited. So we had only a few. We gave them out, with the new library card applications as much as possible, and we ran out of them pretty quickly. So what we did for this particular program, I reached out to all the managers all over the place and said, whatever you have left, send them to me. That way, anyone who is here today, you can go grab you one. It's probably about 50 up there, so I think, so you can go grab them quick. But that's all that was left in the whole system. Everybody sent them here. Got a little small box of them up at the front. I already told the clerks up there, they're gonna come get these cards. So please go get your card of Readers Are Leaders. Absolutely fantastic artwork. Please give it up for Antoine one more time. Yes. So the final thing I'll say, our program today is twofold. There is we're gonna have poets, fantastic poets. I've heard the artwork, it is amazing, you're gonna love it. And those poets will come up and we will have a panel discussion facilitated by Jennifer and Deidre. Without further ado, you all, we're gonna bring up our first poet for the day. Brother Calil, Just Cause.
Yeah.
All right, cool. What's poppin'? How y'all doing today? Y'all cool? I'm gonna do what I always do. If y'all cool, say cool. Cool. All right, cool, perfect. So I got this piece for y'all. It's called More Than Here. And again, it was inspired by Antoine's beautiful piece. And it goes a little something like this. We are more than just a story of triumph. Success is a goal we reach for, but certainly not the only goal we seek. This idealized idea of an American dream is certainly not the only thing we hope to achieve. We search for higher than just the top, for more than just tomorrow. Our lineage is linked to more than just language, more than just the history of anguish, and we found a future here, in the same books they told us not to read. It is true that English is not our mother tongue, and yet we've still learned a dialect that does not bow to destruction, that does not bend at defeat. Yes, our ancestors have suffered, swallowed sorrow with gulps of grief, and still protested, still found power in the bosom of their bellies, still burned with a passion to live beyond the circumstances. They did what they could with what they were granted. Graced us with a love that expanded beyond just the Harlem Renaissance, and all these years later, we still dancing. Our cities, redlined, gentrified, and we still advancing. Licenses to murder are literally being legalized. Shoes strung up over power lines, bodies hung up over headlines. We are actively striving to prove the worth of our lives, and we still find time to read. still have hope enough to make it home, still have enough of one another to make a home out of thin air even if we don't have one to go back to, still make art out of what we go through, still make roses out of what we grow through. We were planted under concrete and hidden inside of dark rooms. It is the light inside of our bloodlines that has caused us to bloom. We told stories of signs and wonders through symbols, hieroglyphs, and songs long before our ancestors were enslaved. You see, this is a story about never having to try in the first place. This is a story about living and never having to die in the first place. You see, heaven, your heaven, is not just a place to visit after we leave Earth. It is a village, here and now, a point between two bookshelves, a region between Walter Dean Myers and Octavia E. Butler. This is a town located at the Third Space Action Lab, a neighborhood located in every neighborhood. You see, heaven, your heaven, is sometimes right in between the front and back cover. It is the people, the scenes, the habitats we envision out of words, and the ideas we incite out of expressions. You see, resilience and strength are not terms we have to find in the dictionary to know the meaning of. They are not declarations we have to repeat over and over and over again. These are frameworks we live through every single day. Our legacies will not know longing for a better world because we will create one with these words, with these hearts, with these hands. My only hope is to see my nephew's nose in the book, not because of what I told him, but because of what he knows is in the book. My only fear is making a foundation built on faulty success instead of freedom, which is to say, these achievements mean nothing in the history books if brown boys and girls never read them. What is the promise of a work of art if brown boys and girls never see them? So we aim to hang the paintings high, to put murals on buildings, on t-shirts, on pants legs, to put emotion into music, to turn the stereos up and listen out loud to y'all. Y'all call it culture. We call it another day in the hood. We are more than a study, more than a series of data, more than numbers. We are more than money, more than anything. We are here, sitting right at home. We are here in our living room, learning our first words from our fathers and mothers and aunties and brothers, listening to the soul of Berry Gordy and Etta James and Rihanna and Lil Wayne. We are here, studying at the library, playing at the rec, walking home from school, searching for the next piece of ourselves. We are here, painting and writing and reading, documenting and denoting the truths of who we are, right along with everybody else. Thank you.
All right, next up to the mic, we're gonna have the Honorable Honey Bell Baker.
Okay, I went through a very spiritual piece from this one painting. I didn't know a painting could have that type of a powerful effect, but it did. So I want to just go through my story for all of 5 minutes with you on what was birthed out of me from this painting. See, I had gone to 8 different elementary schools. That's 8 moves, 8 homes, 8 schools to belong, and this would be the same. She gave me 1 book, and on the cover was my name. When I was 6 years old, I discovered how to read, but it was just because I so greatly needed to plug the bleed. And one day my teacher got down on one knee and told me all of the things that were bothering me. I was angry and I was upset, and I ran from school in a rage. I returned a week later, and my teacher turned Eloise Greenfield's page. This teacher, she looked nothing like me, but somehow she knew exactly what was bothering me. Honey, I have a book for you. And she pulled me down to her knee. Honey, I have a book for you. Honey, I love. Honey, I love. How does this one teacher know exactly what I need? And does this famous book have a picture of me? And is this book really named after me? That's what my little mind thought. So bad, longing to be free. Honey, I love. Honey, I love. And she began to read. She was not going to convince me that the world was my oyster and life was my stage. But she pulled me closer and just started to read the page. Honey, I love. Honey, I love. Honey, I love. And the pages, like grandma's crochet, wrapped me. Is it possible for mere pages to capture while freeing me? Honey, I love. Honey, I love. And she pulled me closer to her knee, and I was longing to scream, get away from me. But the pages of this book had captured me, and the pages of one little book had freed me. Honey, I love. Honey, I love. And all of a sudden, I knew that I was seen, and I knew that I was heard, and into my DNA dripped every single word, and there I found Ntezake Shange. And yes, I considered it, but the rainbow was enough. For a little black girl who was just tired of playing tough, I opened one little book and dismantled my own rough. And at that moment, a poet was born, becoming a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
At that moment, a poet was born, one little book, becoming a diamond in the rough. See, I opened a book and I found me. I opened a book and I found me. And there I found identity. There I found spirituality. There I found ancestry. There I found Dr. Seuss in me. I opened a book and I found me. Opened a book and I found me. Found the miseducation I had won. Life has berries raisin in the sun, or Richard Wright's native son. I opened a book and I found me. Now face to face, no critical theory. There I found W.E. There I found Marcus Garvey. There I found Honey Bell-Bey. I opened a book and I found me. I opened a book and I found me. There I found To Kill a Mockingbird. There I knew poetry preferred to the next generation must be transferred like the autobiography Malcolm X. A singing cage bird, my favorite text. I'm not your Negro, but I got next. Lorraine, Ohio's bluest eyes. Roll of thunder, hear my cry. It's not the genre, that's what they said. That's why I rock with Charlotte's Web. That's why I digest Dr. Seuss. And literacy's like a self-made youth. That's why I rock with Dr. Seuss. And literacy's like a self-made youth. I opened a book and I found my truth. Opened a book and I found my truth. It's like the souls of black folk. To be without books is to be with a yoke. Opened a book and I found me. Opened a book and I found me. Like Gwendolyn Brooks, her called surprise. God has been watched by their eyes. And Maya said, still I rise. Yes. Right. You may write me down in history with your bitter twisted lies. Yes. You may try me in the very dirt, but still like dust. I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Cause I walk like I got oil wells pumping in my living room. I opened a book and I found me. I opened a book, found my destiny. Opened a book, found spirituality. Opened a book, found sensuality. Opened a book and found F-R-E-E. Opened a book and found God in me. Opened a book and found poetry. Opened a book and found poetry. For that I felt like invisible man. Opened a book and I found God's plan. Opened the book and found H-O-N-E. Opened the book and found Y in me. Opened the book and found poetry. Opened the book and found destiny. Opened the book and I found me. Opened a book and I found me.
I opened a book and I found me.
Opened a book and I found me. We opened a book and we found me. We opened a book and we found me. We opened a book and we found me. And there I learned how to R-E-A-D. There I learned I was F-R-E-E. That's where I found a poet in me. That's where I found the poet in me. That's where I found the poet in me. Opened a book, I found me. Opened a book, I found me. One little girl, one teacher, opened one book, and I found me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Wesley, Wallstreet Wes.
Inana ete kaporu Inana ete kaporu Awakened from a snore I swore I rubbed my sore eyes to war cries, all cries that cut to the core. A thump to the door knocked my cup to the floor. I almost jumped in the drawer when I heard once more. Inana ete kaporu Inana ete kaporu Who goes there arose from my enclosed pair, as I arose from a cold to the cold from my uncold chair. Cold air blowed through my uncombed hair like a window's open. And then I heard something gentle, spoken. It said, revolution. I admit that I am it. I'm a violin in the midst of violence. I'm a vitamin that restores the fight in men. But the mind state that I am in is how did I invite him in? That before me a spirit manifested and manifested in me truth. It entered my nostrils and all I could do was nod. Slow. And within seconds, possession. It left me with this message. The readers are leaders but also weapons on the battlefield of the mind. Ignorance is at an all-time high, and for some reason you are not real if you are not lying. Or if you are not dying with the devil. And as he orders soul rolls, your soul rolls right into his hands. As he commands that God is no longer your master but the internet. But the internet. And how can we really expect out of these babies' intellect when phones and tablets are the new parents? I guess it's just another generation lost by the way it looks. I was once taught that if you want to hide anything from the ignorant, put it in a book. And they'll try to kill off anyone who truly wants change. So before they put bullet to brain, let me give you this bullet to bang. In a nine, poem.
And last, but certainly not least, but again, I've gotten a preview. We're going to bring up our dear sister, Siaara Freeman.
Good afternoon, happy Sunday, everybody. How you feeling? I know we're in a library. We're supposed to be quiet, but I said, how you doing? You can speak back at me. You can talk. We can have a conversation. How are you doing? What a pleasure. What a pleasure to be here. What a pleasure to be offered this space to read with one of my absolute, literature is a legacy. I got Toni Morrison on my shirt. You are your best thing. She is one of my heroes. Honey Bay Bell, is another one of my heroes. Is a very beautiful Black literary legacy of woman that I come from. And I am so, so proud. And thank you for always making me proud. And to my guys, you did your thing and you always do. To Antoine, thank you. Thank you for showing, I'm a literary artist, but I appreciate visual art a lot. I write a lot of ekphrastic poems. That's what it's called when you write poems about art. It's called ekphrastic poems. And I write a lot because I think art, especially Black art, is often in conversation with each other, no matter what the medium is. I think a lot of Black artists are often in conversation with each other, no matter what the medium is. And one of the conversations that we are talking about visually and literary is the banning of art. Is the decision that somebody higher up gets to make to say you no longer have access to this information. You no longer are allowed to learn and ingest what you choose to ingest. We are going to choose for you. And right now, what we are all doing together in this room, we are collectively saying, no thank you. I'll read what I want. I'll listen to what I want. I'll view what I want. I will spend my time consuming what it is that I want. And that is revolutionary. So can we clap for ourselves? My poem is about legacy. I come from a very long line of books. I am society's dog-eared daughter. I was bookmarked at birth, sister strange fruit strung from many trees. Of course, I have a paperback. Yes, this made my cover hard. No, you won't ever catch me spineless. When my mama put the hot comb to my head, you could still smell the lost library of Alexandria burning. I am a Nile-long novel. America has a history of lost maps. Some are hidden across my scalp. My mama's mama helped invent a braided alphabet. I am a child of Atlas. I am the very first and the very last word. Folks want to dead my language, baby. Being Black means I've been banned enough to feel iconic. Don't act like you ain't used to learning the world in Black. Go pick up a book. What color are the words? I go to the library just to check myself out. I find a new way to define myself every century. Call me Encyclopedia Black. Get the book Arazzi. I'm extending the world's extensive bibliography. I am the mother of many mouths. I can't wait to publish new legacies. Say, my children's children will always have a book, which means there will always be more than one world for them. Let everything after this poem be a promise of future chapters. Let them learn some things, but softly tucked between some pages. May they always have a library, which is to say, may there always be a school where they can go to learn anything they like. Love is a library. May they meet many librarians until they find the right one. Books are a frequency. I dream them perfect volumes. I dream them unlimited editions. I hope they read what scares them until it doesn't. May they grow to understand character arc and let that translate to grace. Amen. Let them learn tension and how to navigate it. May they always be the protagonist in their own stories. May they find the light at night for just one more page. May they know we are all a thesaurus. Each of us is just another way to say love, another way to say possibility, another way to say tomorrow. Mother, may they read more into this life. May they read more into this. May they read more life. May they read more. May they read. Mother, may they read.
Okay, so, you all, one more time for all four.
Yeah.
At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Janice Small. You want to come on up, Janice? Y'all give Janice a hand. She's been a big part of it.
Thank you. I am so thrilled and honored to be here with all of you. You are all amazing. Staring at all of you in the front row, you are all amazing. Who in this room was at the first program in this series that was back in, was it March?
March.
Raise your hand if you were here. Less than half, so I get to repeat the story you told. Is that okay? So, it's my story, but it's really the story for all of you for today. Way back, I was the director of an arts organization for over 10 years in Cleveland called NOVA, New Organization for the Visual Arts. I got there after graduate school, after I worked at the National Endowment for the Arts for a year as a fellow. I came there from the Contemporary Arts Center in Cincinnati where the Mapplethorpe censoring happened that went on to the NEA, where everything changed around censorship. So that's what I was kind of brought up in my very early 20s. NOVA was located downtown, and there was a bunch of construction going on, and we developed a program called City Windows, where we had artists prepare proposals for site-specific installations in vacant windows downtown. Lots of people applied. It went really, really well. They were able to reach a larger audience than they thought, than they ever would before. And one of those windows was censored and shut down by the building owner because they felt the content was violent. So the Mapplethorpe piece was shut down because it was homoerotic imagery, it was LGBTQ censorship. This next one I'm telling you about was violence. So we started doing a series of educational programs about art as a form of communication. And by censoring art, you're censoring people. You're shutting down their voices. And an artist who was part of the first panel that we did in March, David Buttram, came to me, and I said it then, and he's not here today, so I don't have to embarrass him twice. But he changed my life. He came to me and said, it's really wonderful that you're doing these educational programs, but black artists aren't going to get censored because they're already censored. They're not getting chances to exhibit them.
Talk about it.
And I sat and I listened, and he opened my brain. And I went to my good friends, and you raise your hand if any of you were lucky enough to know Dr. Howard and Grace Lee Mims. So I went to them. They were great mentors of mine. And I sat with them and I said, help me understand and help me understand what we can start to do together. And Grace said, you know who we should involve? We should involve my nephew. I said, great, who's your nephew? Oh, Spike Lee. So Spike Lee worked with us. And he came and he worked with me, he worked with us. And we did a program at Cleveland State, and a few thousand people came. And David Buttram said to me, okay, now you have a few thousand people hearing it. Hearing it from Spike Lee was a really good thing. And then we kept it going, and we kept it going, and when the library card situation happened, and Hallie called me so upset, because Hallie was behind this project, along with Tracy, and we loved this work, and we knew how important it was, and we know that Little Children in Reading and Honey's Story and so on. I'll tell you a funny thing in a serious way, a serious time. My kindergarten teacher lives across the street from me. So I told her, and I can't wait to tell her all about your work today, honey, about that one teacher, because that's what she did with me, with drawing. But when this whole thing happened, I thought, oh my gosh, all these years later, of course it's still happening, but it's still happening, and let's take this opportunity, because I have been the luckiest person in the world with my team to get to be working with Antoine and Michael and Mocha and seeing this organization grow into such a creative, important place in this community. And I was going to talk to Hallie, but then I sent a text immediately to Deidre and Jeremy, and it was either right before Thanksgiving or right before Christmas, and I said, I know it's a horrible time, but can one of you call me for just 30 seconds? And they both called me, and I said, here's what's going on, here's what I want to recommend with Antoine and Michael to Hallie in the library, are we on the right track? And they both said, absolutely, and we're in, how can we help? So seeing this room now filled for the day, seeing the first program back a few months ago filled is a wonderful thing, and we all have to keep the talking going. So this series grew out of a bad situation that turned into a positive, because Antoine also, right Antoine, he met with the staff here. He met with the staff who didn't feel good about the card, who felt the painting was racist, and talked them through and brought most of them along, and now we get to bring all of you along. So what this is about hearing the voices of Black artists. The first one was visual artists, today is literary, spoken word artists. Hearing, really, really hearing, and then together trying to continue to further those voices. So that's what this is about. I get to introduce Deidre, which is the best part of the day for me. So I have the regular Deidre bio stuff to begin with. Deidre McPherson is the first Chief Community Officer, right, Jeremy, for the Assembly for the Arts. Deidre is a native of Cleveland Heights. She holds an MBA from the University of Maryland and a bachelor's degree from Miami University in, business administration, marketing, violin performance, and art management. Her background, I didn't know the violin piece.
Been on the DL, but yeah.
now we all know
That's
about
not origins.
the violin piece. She served as a curator of public programs at the Museum of Contemporary Art. She was director of public programs at the Cleveland Museum of Art. She led artistic and community programs for Front International. She is a board member of Bike Cleveland, and she's a crazy bicycle person. If you see someone zooming around on a bicycle, they think, hey, that looks like Deidre. It's Deidre. Even if you're a million miles from here, it's Deidre. And she's the president of the board of Sankofa Fine Art Plus. To me, what Deidre is one of the most kind and caring people I have truly ever met. She's humble, she's behind the scenes on so many things in our community, making thoughtful and wise and creative connections and working really, really, really hard. And what I especially love, if any of you were at the exhibit of Antoine's work, what's the name, Deidre?
Gallery 2602.
Gallery 2602, where Antoine had his first one-person exhibition this summer, which was sold out or near sold out?
Near sold out.
Near sold out of major, major work, which was a wonderful, wonderful thing. I thought this was true, but I saw it there. What comes first for Deidre are people. She's so people-centric. Her family, young and old, love to have the baby in the back who's 3 months old. That reflects what Deidre really cares about. She has so many friends of all ages, all backgrounds, all colors, and she's so, 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 so smart. She facilitated the panel a few months back just brilliantly, and the planning committee had talked about, so who should facilitate the next one, and within seconds of it, nobody, it's gotta be Deidre again. She's so wonderful, she's so good, she's so smart. Now to you, my dear.
Wow. So much love for you, Janice. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. That was a very, very kind, very generous introduction. So thank you so much. It is really a pleasure to be here with you all today. And I'm going to go ahead and get ready to introduce our poets, because what we really want to do is hear from each of them on a number of topics. So once again, welcome. Welcome to today's discussion, Let's Talk Art. We're here to talk about the intersections of visual art and poetry. My name is Deidre McPherson, and it's really, really an honor and privilege to be here with you all today to moderate this discussion. I see a lot of friends in the audience, a lot of familiar faces, and we're about to have a good time. I mean, we've already heard 4 phenomenal performances in response to this beautiful, beautiful painting. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's right outside, it's right by the circulation desk. So when we finish our program today, spend some time with the painting in person. So once again, I'm here on behalf of Assembly for the Arts, where our mission is to center Cleveland as a great city of the arts and a great city of equity. At Assembly for the Arts, we work in collaboration with everyone, artists, arts and cultural nonprofits, and creative businesses, to help advance our arts and cultural ecosystem. And our work in equity for the arts is very much in solidarity with partners like the Museum of Creative Human Art, the Cleveland County Public Library, and many, many others. So we know that, well, our objectives today, let's talk a little bit about that, is to share some time thinking about not only the intersections of art, visual art and poetry, but also we're going to talk a little bit about censorship, intellectual freedom, literacy, and the power and the danger of books. So I'm going to call our panelists up to the table, and if you could all join me up here, I'm going to get ready to introduce you. And I'd also like for our additional panelist, Jennifer Coleman, if you could please join us up here, and I'll introduce all 5 of you. All right, I'm gonna start with Honey Bell-Bey. Honey Bell-Bey is a motivational poet, a writer, an educator, and a community advocate. She is an Ohio Certified Prevention Specialist and the founding director of the Distinguished Gentlemen of Spoken Word, a character-based performance troupe for adolescent males who perform on topics of disparities and social injustices. Earlier this year, in January 2020, Honey was appointed the Poet Laureate of Cuyahoga County, the first poet in 16 years to hold this position. Bell-Bey is a graduate of Shaw High School and Bethune-Cookman University. Once again, give it up for Honey Bell-Bey. Next up, we have Siaara Freeman. Siaara is a 2023 Room in the House Fellow for the Caribou House and a 2022 Catapult Fellow with Cleveland Public Theater. Earlier this year, she began a 2-year term as the first Poet Laureate for both University Heights and Cleveland Heights. Siaara is also a 2021 Premier Fellow, Premier Playwright Fellow. Her book, Urban She, is available with Button Poetry, and it's a finalist for the Audre Lorde Award. Let's give it up once again for Siaara Freeman. Next up, we have Calil Gage. Calil is a poet, speaker, educator, and an author. He's the founder and executive director of the Sparrow's Fortune. Born in Chicago, raised in Columbus, currently residing in Cleveland, Calil gained his bachelor degree at Kent State University in Human Development and Family Studies. He's been awarded the Helping Hands Award from the Cuyahoga County Alcohol, Drug Prevention, and Mental Health Services in recognition of the communal nature of his work as a poet. Let's give it up for Just Cause. Next up, we have Wesley, Wallstreet Wes Robinson. Wallstreet Wes was given the moniker Wall Street because of how he genuinely invests in the lives of others. At the age of 21, he was sentenced to 10 years of imprisonment for 2 counts of aggravated robbery. During his tenure in prison, Wes was often mentored by men serving life or more who encouraged him to embrace his prison experience as a life lesson. Wallstreet focused his energy on pouring that same wisdom into other young males who were serving longer sentences. He formed an organization, Digging Diamonds from Dirt, where he educated himself and others on Black history and poetry. Since then, Wallstreet has really invested himself in finding himself creatively. Let's give it up for Wes. And last and certainly not least, we're joined by Jennifer Coleman. Jennifer Coleman is the Gund Foundation's Program Director for Creative Culture and Arts. Prior to joining the foundation, Jennifer, an architect, was president of her own design firm, Jennifer Coleman Creative. Earlier in her career, she practiced architecture at several local firms. She founded City Prowl, a company that produced audio walking tours of Cleveland that highlight the distinctive history and architecture of our city. And she's also, she has been on the board of directors for a number of local arts and cultural organizations. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Coleman. All right, so, wow, I just wanted to say what an honor and pleasure it is to be here with all of you. I admire your work as an administrator and as artists in our city. I felt each one of your poems, and so let's just get right into it. Let's start by talking about Antoine's painting. So the name of this painting is Readers Are Leaders. And we spent some time as a group here in the library talking about this painting. And I just wanted to hear from each of you, what about this painting really spoke to you and your work as an artist and as an administrator?
I guess we'll just do the past month. So looking at this painting, the first thing that you see as you come close to it is the colors. They're vibrant. They're, in some cases neon. And it's not that Antoine always works in this particular medium of these bright colors. He uses color in very different ways. And in this one, the vibrancy is what just like jumps out at you at first. Then you start noticing things like the little doggy and the girl sitting down comfortably, the plant, and you instantly know that this is their home. This is where they live. And the plant being in the center is showing life. And you see how the leaves touch the girls' heads and they touch their arms, which are carrying books. And this is the idea of the reading, the vibrancy, the life in this painting, and just how this is comfortable, it's natural, it's what we all should be doing. And it's basically talking about love and the happiness and the joy that's coming out of this painting is literally touches you when you see it. That's what's so special about this.
I agree. I think the colors, the color palette chosen. I was born and raised in the 90s. This feels very 90s nostalgia to me. And this is the era in which I was reading books. I was one of those girls. In fact, in Warrensville Library, I had such a high fine. By the time I was out of middle school, it was wild. I owed a lot of money to this establishment, so thank you for having me. It was wild. And I can't help but think about, like you said, they are inside. It's so much life inside. And I grew up on St. Clair and then came to Warrensville when I was maybe 9, 10. And I remember not being able to play outside that often growing up, that not really being an option for me. As far as my mother was concerned, my 2 older siblings were a lot older than me. I was a lonely kid, is what I'm trying to say. So like a lot of lonely kids, I used books as escapism, right? So I got to go to different things, know different people, see different worlds. And this idea of joy happening, being on the outside, being on the inside and not on the outside. Normally when you see kids happy in paintings, they're outside. They're doing something, they're in motion. And this idea that joy can be solid and stoic really harkens back to how I first understood joy, and it was through reading.
So I'm always one for details, and I tell Antoine, like, why was their noses red? Like, I was very curious about that. But the importance of history, being able to put your nose in something for real, it ignited me a lot for real. Because I'm kind of nosy. I don't know if y'all know that, but I am kind of nosy. And the importance of, and I don't know if Antoine did this on purpose, but this is what I got from it. She's right behind the bookshelf. And in a lot of ways, I felt that was a moment of leaning on books, on knowledge. Those being like pillars of holding her up. I don't know if you did it on purpose. He didn't do it on purpose, y'all. No, don't take that. But that's how I received it, and I think that started how the painting started to speak to me. Seeing the books on the ground, because it's more, and seeing the books, and then thinking about how they might be notebooks, because as I related to myself, when I'm reading something, I always have a notebook next to me because I might find something that might spark my thought, might spark how I feel about something. And so, knowing that was at home and reflecting on his time at the 26, what's the gallery?
Gallery 2602.
Yeah, Gallery 2602. It was called like Come Home With Me. It was called Come Home With Me. And I reflected on that and the style here, and knowing like these were inspired by his children. Like that brought me that much further home. And I don't got kids, but it made me want to have kids. Like this was like, it's kind of cool for real. I like this. I want to be able to read with my kids. Like, that's cool, right with them and stuff. But that's really what inspired a lot of the work that I received from it, is reflecting on myself. And I wasn't a reader when I was a child. I didn't start reading until I was like 12 or 13. And when I did finally read, it was Langston Hughes and Shel Silverstein. So being able to not see myself, but see the future is what really inspired me a lot from this piece. So thank you, Antoine. Thank you so much.
I have a deep love for art. I love to see the development of art. You know, when I first started developing love for art, one of my mentors, when he would start out, I'm like, man, what is this dude doing now? Like, this look really bad. But the more it developed, you know, it became beautiful. It made me understand art on so many different levels. So when I looked at the painting, I was looking at the details, like his brush strokes and, you know, the different textures of the picture. Like, I love the picture, but it was the technique of the painting that I really dove deep into. But then when I stepped back and looked at the full picture, the way that it inspired me, it made me more interested in the mind of the artist. You know, and I gave him a call and I just picked his brain, you know, and it made me just respect him more than anything, and just to be able to connect with quality, a genuine man, you know, that's what really inspired me, because on this journey of life, so many of us lose our imagination. We lose the power to be a good person. We lose the strength to be able to really show up in this world in a wholesome way. So to be able to connect with him and pick his brain and see where his mind is at as a man and a member of my community, that's what was most inspiring to me as a young man, you know. So I thank you, I appreciate you, I value who you are and how you show up in our community. And you know, your art is really changing lives and it's inspiring us all. And I just want to encourage you to continue to, you know, see life through your own vision and see life through your own eyes, because it's amazing.
So when I first saw the painting, I knew it was yours before I knew. And because I recognized the style from the mural, but when I saw it close up, because I struggled to write the piece at first without seeing the painting. I needed to come in contact with it. And when I did, I knew what was cooking on the stove in their house. I knew that the kids were safe. I knew that once they got done reading, someone was gonna call them to eat. I was there. I was that far into the piece. And working, the population of young people I work with are adolescents. And sometimes it is an uphill battle trying to get them to love reading that late. So the first thing I knew was their age, and I was grateful. Like, oh, they're reading young. Being passionate about literature, somebody needs to start that spark at 4.
Yes.
at 3,
Yes.
when you're reading to them at 2.
Yes.
When I am talking to the Averys, a former distinguished gentleman, and trying to get them to read at 12, it is hard for me to be able to tell you the concept of double consciousness. They're looking at me like I got triple consciousness because it's too late for me to spark it then. So the first thing I noticed, and that's what I put into the piece, it took me back, honey, where were you at this little girl's age? And so I had to go through a whole memory piece. What did I feel? What was cooking on the stove? What was home like? So I went through a whole spiritual piece first to put myself into this home and be grateful for these little children that you painted at this age, which is what the age is what hit me first, that they get this precious gift of reading right now. And in some of our school systems or homes or the community at large, our kids are just not getting it that young. And then we blame them, I'll get off my soapbox here, we blame them when the test doesn't represent it, or even beyond that, when science says that reading for pleasure, it is a developmental asset, when they've never been given that, and then we blame them. They read to take a test. You read to pass the test. You don't read because it's enjoyment, because the tablet is enjoyment, and internet is enjoyment, and you don't have this kind of time where you just sit and read. So that's what I noticed first.
Thanks, y'all. We didn't practice that. Pass them down. It's natural. We talked a lot about finding yourself in books and your connection to books from a very young age and how that was transformative in each of your lives. Can you talk a little bit about how the threat of book bans makes you feel as an educator, an artist that creates programs for others, and as a funder? What is the impact that has on our communities?
So my mom was a library aide for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. So I grew up, I don't even know when I began reading or when I wasn't reading tons of books. I'm a little bit older than y'all. I am a lot older than all of y'all. So the library I went to was the Harvard Lee Library, not on Harvard, but on Lee. So, you know, that is like 70s, mid 70s when they made the change when they built the library on Harvard. And over the summertime, they had a reading contest. And it was my full, strongest desire and passion to be at the top of that list. So, you know, I would read 40 books over a summer. And absolutely, my mom, I was kind of like the shoemaker's kid, and I always wanted her to bring back the books for me, the best books that everyone took out. And she was like, no, you are not gonna get these books. You may do find them at your school library, whatever, go to the library and pick it up. Which was absolutely what she was irritating as a 6-year-old not to get the Blue Fairy book, but you know, you just learn. So at the time, the biggest thing, and I don't even think I remember, I was kind of reflecting on us being here today, that when you read as opposed to when you go see a movie, look at pictures, you can make those characters you. And when you are, you know, in the 60s, there weren't a lot of books that had, you know, the wonderful, lovely books that showed children, books we saw, the pictures with honey, of little girls that looked like me, very specifically like me. And when you read a book, you know, you think of A Wrinkle in Time. That was me. That was me. That was a little black girl. And at that point, it was so critical to be able to dream, to think, and to expect you to be in those places. And that, and we'll get to this a little bit differently, is dangerous. And that in some ways is why there is banning to make sure that we can see who we are and who we can be. And those type of things in weakening is, flat out weakening of our civilization. Now, we are lucky in this goofy ass Ohio to be on the northeast portion of a blue city, a blue region, where book banning doesn't mean crap to us. We will go and find what we need to find, whether it is in an actual book, whether it is on the internet. We know that we have that knowledge. And it's incumbent on us to make sure that our children know that the kid on the bus that we take to school, that we're sitting across from, make sure they're reading or suggest things or say, hey, honey, you want to learn more about this? This is a book that you can learn from. So we know that we have that knowledge, but there's a lot of places in Ohio where they don't have that knowledge. And people who are suggesting banning books know the power that this knowledge has, and the conversation, the critique, the interrogation that reading books, that people, after you read a book and you're like, this was a great book, or this made me feel a certain way, or I didn't really like this book because of these reasons. That type of thinking, we sometimes take for granted that not everyone has that. And in talking a little bit about this painting, I think that that critique and that power of critique is important. Back in 2017, there was a painting done by a white woman artist named Dana Schutz of Emmett Till. And it was put in the Whitney Biennial, and there was an outcry about this, that this woman did this painting of Emmett Till in the casket. And it was a very disturbing painting, very disturbing. It was disturbing to me. And I'm like, no censorship, but I had to question myself when I'm like, I don't want to look at this painting. I do not want to look at this painting. And I had to think deeply as to why. It wasn't just about Emmett Till. It was about this child. In this case, it was about Emmett Till, who was a child, who was 14 years old, who was the same age as my son at that time. I dreamed about this painting. And it took a while for me to think of my fears as a Black woman, as a Black mother, to see this and to have a child of the same age. And, that wasn't a good feeling, that was fear. But I am thankful to that artist for painting that so that I could see that and get in touch with parts of me. So books aren't always there to make you feel good and warm and fuzzy about yourself. They're there to make you think, they're there to make you get in touch with yourself. And your fears, your joys, your anger, all of that is critical. And we have to know, as being humans and being citizens of this world, we have to know that we always have to do that and have that intense rigor of questioning ourselves and our beliefs. So book banning, I ain't got nothing to say about that, but it's only banned to us. If Florida wants to ban certain books, so what? In the schools, deal with it. But parents have to come up and say, no, we are going to tell you about this story, and we're going to tell you about why this story is important. And families, all of that. Banning is only as strong as you let it be.
Yes.
I agree so wholeheartedly. I think there are a lot of ways to look at the banning of books, right? There are ways to look at it as a reader. There are ways to look at it as a writer. And so I want to start off with looking at it like a writer. Toni Morrison wrote 11 books, got some of the top awards that you can get as a literary human on this planet. And most of her books have been banned at one point or another. The first time it happened, it was inside of a prison, and and they said they were afraid it was going to start a riot. And Toni said that's how she knew she was powerful. She said that was the moment that she knew that there was something that her words could do to move people, right? And as a writer, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't wanna feel that. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't want somebody mama to be like, you can't read Urbanchi till you 21. I want somebody mama to tell them, this might shake something up. And as a writer, I don't think I often speak in my legacy as a Black woman writer, but I have a lot of peers and a lot of colleagues across demographics, and we all want that. Whether we say it or not, we secretly want our work to be in that space where the wider public is saying, I don't think you're ready for it. That's important, okay? Now as a reader, as someone, and I want to go back to what Honey said, you do have to hook kids at like 3. My father got me hooked on phonics. Again, I was a 90s kid. He got me hooked on phonics when I was 3 years old. And he was like, I want her to like books. That was his reason, and it worked. I like books more than I like writing, more than I like most things. I like books. And when you don't have to have books banned by an establishment. Parents ban books. Teachers ban books. It was 3 authors in my household, for sure, that I was not allowed to read. I came from a reading household. My father read Donald Goines, and if you don't know who Donald Goines is, well, go read you some Donald Goines, okay? Donald Goines talks about the hood in a very blatant but lyrical manner, okay? That was one of my father's favorite authors. My mother is messy, and she loved V.C. Andrews, okay? If you don't know who V.C. Andrews is, V.C. Andrews writes a soap opera for your nerves, okay? And my grandmother loved Toni Morrison. So it was books in the house that I was told at a young age, don't read that. Leave that alone. Pick something else. And those were the books that I read. I was bad. I read Beloved at 10 and had nightmares, okay? I read Donald Goines and didn't trust nobody walking to the bus stop for like 2 months. I read V.C. Andrews, and forgive me, but I was sure all white people were up to madness going on, right? So this is because books inform your reality as a child. So there was reasons why maybe those books were not banned, but were held off for me for a certain age, but like my good sis said, it's up to us. Little Siaara knew she wanted to read those books. So I read those books, Come With May. And I do have a therapist now who might say some of those books that I read earlier, some of the Come With May came. But that is okay, because I had a choice and I made it. Reading is dangerous. You don't have to ban books to make it dangerous. Reading is inherently dangerous. I'm an educator as well, and the easiest way to get my teenagers to read a book is to form it in a way that they shouldn't be reading it. This might got something, and I'm slick with it too. I'll be like, oh, you know what, we might skip over chapter 2, that's a lot for y'all. And they be like, no, Miss CC, no ma'am. We're reading child, say, you know what, Macbeth get a little raunchy. It does, I'm into Shakespeare, it don't take much. Danger incites folks to read too. So I don't want us to be so quick to take the danger out of books. I don't think large establishments should be banning them, but I don't think words being banned inherently causes a problem. I think sometimes it sparks the need and want to read.
I wholeheartedly, I can even talk sometimes, wholeheartedly agree with what they were talking about. But specifically being an educator, I think the biggest thing is I've built curriculum, made programs, and then had to rework the programs. Every single time I've been in the classroom, and especially not knowing the students beforehand, and so I teach creative writing workshops, right? I learned that there's times you gotta throw the plan away and talk to them in their language for real. When they want to freestyle, all right, cool, we can freestyle, we can play around with it, and really get students thinking about, I like how C said, you gotta dress it up sometimes and try to make them feel like they getting something that they shouldn't be having for real. So when we play, and create it to be a game, create it to be playful, because at that point, kids want to play. They want to learn. You could be 15 and want to play. So being able to have that dialogue and speaking to the students in their language. And I'm bilingual because I speak like I'm from the hood, and I also speak like I live in the exec room, right? So being able to navigate the conversation, no matter in which room you're at, because it takes that as an educator, especially as what I would call like a virtual educator. Like I don't stay in one place, I don't talk to the same group of students every single day. I'm not a teacher in that way. And I'll say that too, as an educator who isn't a everyday teacher, it kind of makes it a little bit easier for me. Like I go into a classroom, like seeing me, like I go into a classroom and it breaks down those walls like that, because y'all don't gotta talk to me the same way y'all talk to, you don't gotta call me Mr. Calil, my name's CJ, call me CJ, call me just cause, and creating that barrier or knocking down that barrier makes it a lot easier for the students to want to play. And again, sometimes when you having those breakdowns about what's happening in the chapter, you don't gotta say it in those point blank terms. Make it fun, make it a form of, yeah, because the other dude, he said this, and he said go around the corner. Around the corner might have been 5 yards to the left, if that's what the text say, but creating it to be a conversation with the students makes it that much easier for them to understand it, and then they want to break it down the way you break it down. Because if you allow a student to teach you, they're going to learn it even better. And if you allow them to teach you in their language and be willing to speak to them in their language, it makes it so much easier. On the topic of banned books, coming from a person who I wasn't, my mom did read to me when I was like 3 or 4, but after that enforcement of reading books wasn't there anymore. So again, I didn't really find the love for reading until I was like really 13, 14, and I read a book called The Dreamer by Pablo Neruda. And it was about Pablo Neruda, like his coming into it. And what did it was at the end, because his father had a newspaper, I believe. It was if I remember it correctly, it was a newspaper, I forgot the name of the store basically. And they burned it down. And from that, he was like, no, I gotta write. I gotta make it. And I think that rebellious part of me was like, yeah, we gotta write too, bro. We might as well. And being able to tell those stories, and I like how C kind of broke it down between being a writer and a reader, because even when watching TV, I'm like, oh, they wrote this so good. I really like this. Because as a writer, you read everything. I read that painting for real. Like I thought about even the number of the color. Like I wonder why he chose this number red, why he chose this number yellow, right? Because everything became reading is a language that comes, and when you think about things from the perspective of being books, you think about being a writer. My job is to encourage students to want to write banned books, because like she said, there's something in it that incites something inside of you, and to combat those banned books is really creating that conversation. Because again, I kind of speak a little bit about it in the poem, but before we understood what was going on with the hieroglyphs, we had to do research. We had to figure it out, because language was spoken and then written down. So being able to create the conversation with the students, and the students might want to, you know what, I'm gonna go find the book for myself because it's just that important to me. So creating the conversation with the students in particular and allowing them to find that rebel inside themselves that wants to read when the library said they shouldn't read, when the state said they shouldn't read, when the school said, oh no, we don't got that book because y'all shouldn't be reading it right now. And granted, I'm not telling them to go read Zane books or not like that, right? But I am telling them that there is importance in finding work in artwork that reminds you of you, because that's what it did for me. Like once I started reading Walter D. Myers, I'm like, oh, reading cool for real, because I could resonate with the kids. I could have that conversation, and like I think she talked a little bit about being able to not see the image allows you to be that person. It allows that person to be your brother, your sister, and that creates, again, that inner dialogue within yourself that makes you want to pick up just one more book. So, yeah.
When it comes to the topic of book banning, I experienced it firsthand. Like they said in my bio, when I was 21 years old, I was sentenced to prison. One thing that I learned about being in prison was that, and I learned very early on that Slavery was never really abolished. You know, it was just redirected to the prison system. So a lot of the traits that they applied in slavery was applied in the prison system. And just like when you were in slavery, the only book you was really allowed to read was the Bible. You wasn't allowed to be anything outside of ignorant. So when I got to the prison system, what alerted me was the very first thing was that when you get into the county jail, they banned the law library. So as a 21-year-old man, I don't have a chance to really fully understand the situation that I'm in. You know, me even finding myself in that situation is mixed with a lot of different things as far as ignorance and me just really not knowing, even though I was committing crimes, I really never knew the seriousness of my crimes. And what fed that mind state was, even at a young age, when my mother moved me to Warrensville, we wasn't as fortunate as other Warrensville kids, so my friends became targets to me. You know, and from that moment on, it developed a criminal mind. And that criminal mind led me to prison. And in that prison system, I learned very quickly that they try to control your mind on so many different levels. Yeah. The law library isn't even open until you actually get to your parent institution. So they want to get that number on you first and foremost. But then when you actually get to prison, every type of self-help book, anything that really feeds your development is banned completely. I had a desire to read books, to study other people who came from nothing, who became successful, to feed my spirit. Or maybe I could be somebody too, even though I'm in a situation, maybe I could be more. When I went to go order those books, they never let them into the prison. You know, they try to control what type of books that you allowed to read, and the books that were you allowed to read were, you know, the non-fiction, the fictional books and the things that just play with your imagination. Or if you go to any library, you see sacks of Bibles. You know, and it's just like slavery. So the book banning in the prison system is real. And then when a man is being released from prison and you see him have to jump through so many hurdles and he finds himself back in prison, and society, you just think, oh, he just can't get it right. Oh, he's just messed up, not knowing that the barriers that was placed on that man's mind to put him at a disadvantage in the first place. You know, so book banning, I experienced it firsthand, and me personally, I overcame it. I seen what the prison was trying to do, and I found other ways to educate myself. And we used to sneak books in, and somebody would get a copy of a book, and somebody would make copies of the pages and pass it around the institution. And it was just like slavery. You know, I remember when the new Jim Crow hit the prison system. Somehow, some way, it slipped through the cracks, and the prison system went crazy. They did not want us to have that information. They did not want us to really be conscious of the fact that we were slaves. Even when you look into the law books, it says that once you go to prison and you put a felony on your name, you are no longer considered a human for the rest of your life. Even as I sit here in front of you before and all the accolades and all the awards that I have, by law, I'm not human. Right now, if somebody try to kill me right now, you'll be justified on the strength that I have a felony on my name. You know, so I've experienced book banning, I've seen the effects of it. Some of us were able to overcome it, but I just pray for those who wasn't able to find those resources and the people inside the institution, we could get around those things. They try to control your mind, they try to control your spirit, they try to control your narrative as well as your perspective. Yes. And it's a sad reality, it's still happening to this day. Anything that you really want to build yourself as a human being, you have to find your own unique way to find that. And I just pray for somebody who doesn't have the strength like I do to be able to find the different avenues and the resources to get around those bans within the institutions to be able to further themselves mentally and spiritually.
Absolutely. I think for me, it goes back to what was said earlier, so powerful that you really can't ban something that I have control over. As a person who, I started my own grassroots, community-based program for young men 20 years ago called the Distinguished Gentlemen in Spoken Word, and for young ladies called the Elegant Ladies of Poetic Thought. And two of my students, you were, Jewel, how old were you, 12?
14.
14, how old are you now?
30.
So, and how old are you, Avery?
34.
30. So either they make me feel real old, but to look back then, and I was young, fresh out of college myself, but there were lists of books that they had to read. It was not an option.
And so some parents would say, you know, that's not part of their school curriculum. Well, I understand that we're in Cleveland Public Schools that has a failing grade of F. So I'm telling you, if I'm preparing these students to compete on any global marketplace, you wanna rock with me in Paris, and that's real world stuff, you gonna finish the autobiography of Malcolm X first. You wanna travel with me to Africa, young lady? First, what you're gonna read is the Miseducation of the Negro. When you get down with the Miseducation of the Negro, so they would look like what people saw on the stage. The proficiency on the stage was nothing but a byproduct of what we did behind the scenes, which was a whole lot of reading. So we go to the woods and read. Like, what do you all do at a poetry book camp? We read. And we read some more, and we read some more. And why did I do that, whether they liked it or not, is because I understood, number one, I control this. I buy these books, so no one has to give me the curriculum and give me the formula. I understood that what I was trying to put into them back then would be things that for the hundreds of people who've come through the program is still with them today. Can nobody define you and tell you, convince you to get high if together we in Paris climbing the Eiffel Tower, we all real high. Can't nobody tell you, you gotta join this gang or be a part of this or get connected to this pipeline system from school to prison, and is already designed like the new Jim Crow, kind of lays out for us. If I'm telling you, Avery, you're gonna publish your first book, how old were you when you guys put out Living in the Fire?
I was like 15, 16.
15 years old, I'm making sure you publish. So for me, when I hear the bio being read about me, they could have summed that up with one thing. It's not about the voice that I have. You have lived a life and you have done nothing to make sure you transfer that down to someone else. That is a life wasted. I don't care what I need to get up here and perform if I can't produce the next generation of young people who now produce the next generation of young people. And for me, that's because, like the teacher I mentioned, the Carol Shaheeds at Shaw High School, those were people who were sewing into me. The East Cleveland Library, we had that. I graduated Shaw in '94, but we had that little book certificate. And I don't know if I just wanted to go to the Pizza Hut that was on Euclid, but it was a Pizza Hut booking club, if y'all remember that in there. And you read 5 little books and they punch that card, you got a personal pizza. I was the one reading all 40 of them books. So I had pizza to spare, but it wasn't just that I did. I was giving out pizza. I'm gonna read all my books, all your books too. But I remember my mother brought that Dr. Seuss set, and I don't agree, if you understand Dr. Seuss. It's not about me agreeing with it. I still don't want to see it banned. I don't. You don't have to ban it because you don't agree with it. I still know that it lit some fires in me that still governs my laureacy.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. So, Siaara, at one point in your poem, you said that you've been banned so much. What was the line?
I feel iconic.
You feel iconic, yes. Could you tell us about an experience you had where you had been censored, or your voice was, you were asked to be silenced or canceled? I wanted to hear that of each of you. If you had a similar experience where you might have been censored or tried to be silenced based on the messages and the power of your work.
Yeah, I talk a lot, so I have been censored by my mother. I had one of those mothers that was constantly watching to see what her child was about to say when we were out in public. Don't do me like that. Some of y'all were those kids and some of y'all got those kids. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That was me. And I have always told the line. I think, like I said, I found the Donald Goines books, they were hidden. I found the V.C. Andrews books, they were hidden. I found the Toni Morrison books, they were hidden. So towing the line is nothing new to me. I went to Brush High School and I used to run our African American symposium. And is that the story I want to tell? It's been so many stories where I've been banned. I was at Harvard once. I was at an Ivy League school once. That's the one, let's do that story. Okay, we'll do that story. God, it was so interesting. So I went viral a few times on the internet, got over 1 million views. I've done some traveling nationally, done some traveling internationally. I've been very blessed. And a lot of the Ivy League schools are trying to integrate spoken word artists inside of their literary communities because they want to. I'm a published poet. I live in academia as well, but there are definitely spaces where we need to be crossing the line. Sometimes I go to academia and I'm like, y'all write well, but you're boring. And that's why, I'm just being honest. That's why marketers aren't picking you up. That's why publishers aren't picking you up. That's why you're not doing book tours. It's boring. You're reading it boring. And then I see spoken word artists and I'm like, you have so much fire. You're so invigorating. You just need some more craft. You just need some more technical skill. And so like marrying those two worlds together is a big part of my platform. And that's what I do. Some of the universities don't know that's what I do. They have just read the published version of Siaara Freeman. They've read the accoladed academic version of Siaara Freeman. And so when they invite me to these universities, when the dean is sitting there and I come in and I am fully being Siaara Freeman, I am fully being 93rd of St. Clair because that is who my poems are. They have to take that fully. And sometimes they don't want to. Sometimes they will come to me as the dean did and say, hey, this is the particular set of poems that we want you to read. And there's a beautiful thing about contracts, y'all. A beautiful thing. If you don't put that in my contract, baby, it don't matter to me what you say after I sign the contract. So with that being said, I can't really tell you a time about me being banned when it worked. And that's why I think, no, and I'm being serious. It's a little bit of, Nikki Giovanni ego tripping about me, but I cannot think of a time where someone has truly banned. I think every time someone said don't read, even just on a personal level, anytime somebody says don't get to know Siaara Freeman, it's 5 people at the open mic that want to get to know who Siaara Freeman is. Anytime somebody says don't read that girl book, I see 3 more black girls on a bus with her banshee. Okay? So I go back to what I said. I don't think banning things in this way necessarily stops people from reading it. I think it makes them, I think they're doing the opposite of what they plan to do when these white men in high spaces say, don't read this thing. We know what listening to you has done to us for centuries. No one is listening to you. We are going to do the opposite of what you told us to do. Keep banning it. Ban me. Tell everybody in this room not to buy or banshee. They will have a copy. They will have one. That's how people work. I got a friend that I grew up with in the back of this room right now, and she will verify this. I heard my homie say, I ain't telling him to read Zane novels, okay? I grew up reading Sister Souljah, The Coldest Winter Ever. The urban literature novels, I was the one who was passing them to my friends in junior high, and we was all being bad together. We had an underground railroad of black girl literature happening in middle school and high school, and I was the conductor of that railroad, baby. There is, not only can you not ban me, but once I know that you don't want me to read it, I'm gonna make sure everybody else read it too. I'm gonna tell the person right next to me, you know what we're not supposed to be doing right now? Let's go do that. And it's gonna be a lot of people. And some people call that activism. I don't. I think it's just a personality type. I think activism has a lot more to it. But I think that's a version of it. I think just being brave enough sometimes to do what somebody says you shouldn't do and then pulling others into it. We scare kids. We have scared kids. I am in conversations with teenagers every day and they just repeat. They people please me. They tell me whatever they think Miss CC wants to hear from me to tell them good job. That was not who I was in high school. You can ask my friends. I had my teachers still hit me up. Miss Watkins-Clark loves me. Miss Orrells loves me, but I did not make teaching easy. I had questions. I said, why? I said, how come? And I didn't feel like a bad kid because I had questions. I felt like the kid that my teachers liked. And somewhere it became a switch. Somewhere the kids that asked questions stopped being the teacher's pet. They became annoying. And I know why. It's because of what we said. We're teaching towards tests. They got a job to do. We only get paid. I'm not blaming teachers. I'm an educator. I'm not blaming myself. I know why it's happened. But we have got to find some way to switch it back. And I think that focusing on like the banned books, I think banned book week should be banned book month. Should be banned book semester. I think we as a community of educators, of parents, of just people, start buying the banned books, and then when you're done reading it, don't just put it in your library. Hand it to the person next to you. Become an underground railroad of banned books. I I think when they banned it, we should participate in it. Don't always shut something down, respond to it.
I would say my journey of censorship, to be real, it's twofold. One, in the church, and two, in corporate. And so, in church, I think oftentimes, especially me, being a writer, right? I told the line between secular and gospel a lot of the times. If you ever heard my work, if you haven't, go check out my work, right? But I told the line between what people will call secular and what people will call gospel. And I might say God, and then I might cuss like 2 lines later. And I've been like pulled to the side, Calil, can you come here real quick? And I think that where I come from, black men don't go to church at all. Our moms go to church, our aunties, our sisters, our cousins, they all go to church. And you might see us, you're gonna see the elders there, the pastor, right? The deacons. And I was watching something the other day, and kind of talked about how in a lot of ways, black men aren't celebrated in the church unless they're the orators, unless they are the people with strong communication skills. And again, being a black man who is the person who has communication skills, I have been that celebrated person, but I'm also not that person to fake be a person who I'm not. And sometimes Calil gonna cuss. Sometimes Calil gonna say stuff that's not necessarily right hand on the Bible type of language. And I'm very authentic and real about that. And I think that there's definitely been times where I've been invited to speak or invited to perform. And it's like, yeah, make sure you stay in this area right here. And again, one of my favorite pieces is called Lineage. And within Lineage, I kind of talk about my relationship with God, that spiritual component of being in relation to God or to the divine, and how that correlates with, again, that what they might call plausible deniability of, oh, you're not really a Christian for real. You don't really do this because you do that and you say that, and you're not a Christian poet, so we can't have you here. And so I think that's where a lot of that comes from. And then on the second side of that, the corporate world, being an educator, being a black boy from Chicago who grew up in the hood, who I'm not finna play the code switching game all the time. I'm gonna say what's good to Anthony the same way I say what's good to Ant. And there's definitely been times where that's been questioned. Well, you could just say this a little bit better. And that's when it's not a contract. So I'm saying what I want to say. So the conversation. So I think, again, though, I kind of like what C kind of talked about when it came down to, there's definitely been times where it's been pushed upon me to be censored, but then there's every time where, as long as it's in my ability, I would just say no. Like, if you don't want me to show up as Calil, if you don't want me to show up as just cuz, then I'm not gonna show up at all, because I know my art, I know the value of it, and what they would call like, it's crossover. That's the best way for me to put it. I don't know if y'all, I'm pretty sure, y'all hip to Ray Charles, and Ray Charles, he used a lot of gospel songs and made a lot of secular music with it, and that was like a very heavy thing in his generation, where all the elders was like, why are you doing this, why are you doing that? But when you think years down the line, the representation that he created for gospel to change over into, now we got R&B singers who sound like Alicia Keys, but they talking about Jesus for real, right? And then you got people who are, I fully believe that me sharing my story as a kid from Chicago in the educational world, and it's not a lot of black male educators at all, y'all. Like, it's times where I'm sitting in a conference room and it's me and 40 white ladies, and that's the truth of the matter when it comes to education, especially in Cleveland. And so, being the person that I am, I have to show up fully authentic, because if I start talking in the way that my kids don't understand, that kids who look like me don't understand, then I'm not making no impact for real. And that's where censorship, I can't do it. I can't live in that realm. And if I can't show up, it's just cause I'm not showing up at all for real. So, yeah.
Siaara said, at one point in time, I was attempted to be banned. When I was about 23 years old, and I was in prison, a lot of the older guys was complaining about us because we young, we on 10, but we in this box, you know, so we just all over the place, and they were always complaining about us. And I got all the guys my age together, and I was just like, you know, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna help y'all write a poem to be able to express yourselves and let them know about your journey and how you came to be. But that ended up, in the midst of that, I was like, man, throughout the week, we all doing crazy stuff. We stealing, we robbing, we gambling. I said, let's once a week, man, let's get together and do something positive. So every Saturday, I would get all the young men inside the institution that was my age together, and I would go to the library and I would get a book. And I'd cook everybody a meal, and we would sit there and we would learn how to read. At the time, you know, nobody had never seen nothing like that, because we were so wild and out of control that to see us in formation like that on something positive, it struck the prison wrong. So one day the warden of the institution, they came and got me out the housing unit, they pulled me to a side office and they sat me down. And they said, you know, we keep on hearing your name. We're not hearing nothing bad about your name, but our only problem with you is we feel like your mind state is too powerful and your influence is too strong. So whatever you are doing, if you don't stop doing it, we're gonna lock you in a hole away from everybody. They said, keep it up, and we're gonna lock you in a hole, and you're gonna stay there for the rest of your bid. At the time, what they had no clue is that I struggled with reading. So for the warden of the institution to tell me that my mind was powerful, it created a hunger within me to really develop that within myself. At the time, we were studying Black history. So when they was telling me, you know, the consequences of me doing what I was doing and having my brothers educate ourselves, I thought about, like, in Black history books, they was going to prison for what they believed in. I'm like, man, we already in prison. I went back to the block and made an announcement what had just happened, and I still did it anyways. You know, I continued to educate, I continued to build up my fellow brothers, and I continued to, you know, build myself up in the process as well, and lift myself up, because I knew it was something that we all needed. I knew it was in my soul, and God had led me to do it, so I wasn't gonna let nobody stop me from doing that. So that was a powerful experience, and it really, what was meant to harm me and discourage me, really propelled me into my power.
So to me, it wasn't myself so much that was censored, but at that time, my young people, I pushed them out front and I never went into the performance with them. So they were always asking, well, who's directing these young men? And I would just slip out the back door. I wanted to have empowered them enough to be able to stand. There's so many, I think about GE, and we did one of their corporate events, and I can remember them coming and asking me, now they're not gonna talk about anything with police brutality, right? They're not gonna talk about any of too much of the Black experience, is basically what they said. We don't wanna hear about poverty, we don't wanna hear about absent fathers, we don't wanna, it's like, oh, you do know who you called, right? So then you really don't want our story. I can remember one of the biggest censored piece when Trayvon Martin happened, we took out billboards, remember that, Avery? We took out billboards, is this the Black boy you're labeling? And I and all of my young men were so angry, all we had was the power of our voice. So what do? We can't bring them back, we can't travel down to Florida. All the flack we got from that. That lady's got those kids down there, but it was their voice, and they needed to say it. Now what empowered me to be okay with that, all of the people who went before me are strong. Last year, when I wrote a piece and performed with Nikki Giovanni, I remember that I've never met anybody like this woman. She pretty much told them, listen, see that door back there? I have no intention of offending you, but there's no handcuffs on your seat either. You are welcome to hit that door anytime you like, and I will proceed to tell my story. I was like, Nikki. As I don't have that, but what I do have are ancestors who showed me the way, living ones even. I think about Stevie Wonder. When Trayvon Martin happened, Stevie said, I don't care what you build, you give me $1 million, I will never come to the state of Florida again. And has he kept that word? Yes, he has. He has not stepped foot back. I think about Nina Simone. Nina
when she sang pieces like, and I know this battery's going in and out. When Nina sang Mississippi Goddamn, Nina sang Mississippi Goddamn so hard that her literal voice cracked. And it cracked to the point she never got that back. The pain of what was happening was so fierce, and to sing to the point where you break your literal voice, she sang like that. So people like that have always been my example. Honey, you weren't born in the 60s, so there's been no dogs chasing you. You have had no water hoses on you. You didn't march for any freedom. But this situation right now, in 2023, this is your Pettis Bridge, baby. You can't take a little bit of something, honey. You can't stand up because somebody want to bet. If they could do it with dogs, they could do it with hoses. Slavery, you could do it with whips. Nina Simone can do it to the point where she cracked her voice. That who am I not to fight back for somebody who want to ban a little something? Bring it on. Bring it on. Right there with the whole process, fighting back, especially for the voice of young people who all they needed was my push to say you are powerful enough. I think about that, and when I took them to perform at the embassy in Paris and all these schools, and the young white kids were calling them the N-word. And when we first got out the airport, and my young men are in tuxedos, we didn't perform at the Cavs game at half. They know who they are, so they looking around like, Miss Onion, are they talking to us? They were looking like they could not possibly be addressing us. But the kids were coming up to them, my N-word, my N-word, my N-word. And they really, the sad part about it, and the plain dealer was with us covering these stories, they thought they were complimenting them. So my young people knew enough, we're going to use this as an educational moment with these kids, because they were like, you all are not down with Lil Wayne? The biggest selling artist there? So they assumed that my kids would be, so my kids took it as, listen, not only will we not perform soccer, will we not play soccer with you later, we will not take the stage until you have a seat and let us educate you. I said, go ahead. They didn't take that from me. They used it as an opportunity to educate. When you empower young people, instead of being afraid of it, instead of saying what they're gonna do, because some of my old guys from East Cleveland, Superior St. Clair, could have took that a whole nother way. And we would have did something a little different in Paris, but we didn't do that. We used the moment to educate. And that is the real power behind your voice, not being afraid of the band. Where is my power in that? And where is my power right now?
I'm just going to say a little bit, because we've been talking about artists and censorship, specifically of literary poetry, but we are in dangerous times because all of us are censored. As Black people, we wake up in the morning and there's folks trying to censor us. And it's not by negativity, it's by money, it's by flattery. It is trying to dilute our voices. And there's a lot of that happening here in Cleveland. So we have to look at our leaders and the messages that they're really telling us. Are they empowering us, or are they gatekeeping us? And sometimes you have to look at who is doing that, because sometimes it's the people you trust the most.
Exactly.
So the lessons that we're hearing here now are important. But we have to take that again to wake up in the morning and say, who's out there trying to censor my voice today?
Thank you all so much. This is such a rich conversation. There could be a panel on this panel discussion. Like, I had a whole list. Right, I had a whole list of questions that I was going to get into with you all, but I want to be conscious of our time, that we do have a reception following this. I will ask one question before we open it up to the audience, take a couple questions from the audience, Q&A. In addition to the work that each of you have done as educators, as creatives, as part of this arts ecosystem, who would you say are the arts organizations within the literary arts world that are really helping to advance literacy and just reading, a love of reading and literacy in a positive way, for anyone in the audience who might want to get connected to those organizations or people?
Great, I get a list. So there are in the creative, if you're looking for organizations to help you create, and whether you're a poet, whether you're a playwright, whether you are trying to write a book or something, there's organizations like Literary Cleveland.
Yeah.
So their mission is to develop writers, amplify voices, transforming our community through storytelling. They do a lot of work with artists of color and creative of color. There's a Center for Arts-Inspired Learning, which works with young people, especially in high school. All kinds. They do the whole gamut of art. So visual, theater, spoken word, graphic design. That is a wonderful organization. They are involved with a lot of schools that are in town, but they also have like summer programs, etc. There is Writers in Residence, which is a wonderful, and Calil and I were talking about this organization. Started by basically an undergraduate from John Carroll University, who started this organization. He was in a creative writing program. He had some of his fellow students and connected them with juvenile justice centers. Originally in Cuyahoga County, but right now has connected different colleges and professionals and poets with, I think, 17 different justice centers, juvenile justice centers throughout Ohio. Incredible. Right now he's finishing up his master's degree, but he's been doing it when he came to Gunn and was looking for some funding. I'm like, take the money, please, right now. Because this was an incredible program served by young people for young people. The program is usually, I think, like 10 weeks, something like that. So at the end of that, the residents come up with a chapbook of these creative stories that they have, whether it's poetry or stories. It's just a wonderful program. It just makes me all warm and fuzzy. We're just coming to the end of Cleveland Reads, which is a Cleveland City program, which is connecting. They're trying to up the literacy rate specifically with children. We just had at the end of September, and October is big reading month in Cleveland. So this is coming at a perfect time, this particular panel. The Great Lakes African American Writers Conference, which happened at the end of September. Wonderful program that really connects, brings in national folks, local writers, a lot of symposiums. There's the Annisfield Wolf Awards, which gives awards to global writers, brings them into Cleveland, talks. And I mean, we've talked a little bit about reading, but it's also important to talk about find somebody to talk to what you're reading about. One of the sexiest things to me is when you have someone you love who's like, here's a book.
I swear.
I think you'll like it.
Don't even do me like that. I swear.
I mean, that is, going out to dinner and all that, going to Paris, all that's fine and dandy. But if you have somebody who knows what kind of book, if like somebody came up to my child, like so-and-so gave me this book, I'm like, you can't see that person.
It's going too far.
It's going too far. There's Literacy in the Hood, which is a program that was started to create a culture of reading, especially in Cleveland's low-income neighborhoods. The Literacy Cooperative, Seeds of Literacy, these are organizations that are really working specifically in Cleveland to bring up our literacy rate, which is, we have a 66% literacy problem here in Cleveland. That is not good. That's not just, I can't read, but I have a problem reading a bus. You might have a little bit of issues, but you're still having problems reading. You can't read a bus map. Certain things that just make your life easier. So that's something these organizations really are working on. I think in the juvenile justice system, 85% of the children that have been involved in the justice system are below literacy levels. So everything that you have talked about, being able to control people, being able to control young people, censor them, that is directly tied to literacy rates.
Anyone else want to?
I think, you shouted out most of the organizations that I know. Lake Erie Inc. Also does some great things in this particular area and around with children if you're interested. I'm hosting a open mic at Karamu at the oldest Black theater in the country on Friday, and I'm very proud. It's just like, it's historical, quite frankly. Langston Hughes was the writer in residence there, so to be up in that position, starting is very important, so come out and show love. Khalil, I'm gonna let him tell his business about his open mic. But there are open mics in the city, and if there's not an open mic close enough to you, start one. Go to your local library and bookstore, tell them that you're interested. They are trying to connect with the community. I live in Parma now, even though I'm the Heights Poet Laureate, I live in Parma, and I went up to Parma Wall of Books. It's a lady there named Teresa. She's like, I wish we had poetry and stuff to happen. Make it happen, y'all. If these organizations ain't what you see, like Tony said, if it's a book you want to read, write it. If there is a poetry community or a writing community that you want to be a part of that does not exist, you go create it, and then invite me to come play.
I was gonna speak really quickly on Lake Erie Inc., also Esperanza Inc. They do a lot of work with young people, especially in the Latinx community. I have a company called The Sparrow's Fortune, and we do creative writing workshops for students inside after school programs and inside schools, but also for adults, because that literacy, once you hit 18, you consider an adult and don't nobody care about you no more. And so we found that very important. It's true, my mama don't cook me dinner no more. I'm upset about that. But no, the creative writing workshops are free to the public, and it's important again to kind of what Wall Street was talking about, creating that community to be able to encourage the conversation of writing and then push writing, because you got to be able to read to write. So definitely does.
I want to shed light on my company, Great Minds Think Different. And my company is doing outstanding and amazing work in the community. I go inside the prisons, schools, and mental health facilities in the name of poetry, in the name of mental health. I tailor poetry programs to whatever group of people you give me. I never do the same thing twice. This up and coming Tuesday, I'm doing a production, and it's full of women who lost their kids to the courts. And I've been using poetry over the last 6 months to build their mental health to get their kids back. So this Tuesday, they're presenting poetry in front of their judges, their social workers, so that they can hopefully get their kids back.
Make some noise, that's hard.
And show
That's hard.
the courts the progress they've been making. So please check out my company, Great Minds Think Different. We're doing outstanding and revolutionary work in the communities with hospitals and everything in the name of mental health.
That's awesome. So the initiative I started during COVID is called POET, literally P-O-E-T, which stands for Power Over Emotional Trauma. And I see Jules standing up with her shirt on. And during COVID, we took out billboards again and encouraged women and men to come and write with us, to just write about your trauma. And the rooms were just packed out virtually. And that book that they finished finally comes out on Thursday. And so we're gonna debut that book. And the first room that we did this in, and I didn't know, was a room full of mothers who lost their son to police brutality. So Michael Brown's mom, Eric Gardner's mom, Tamir Rice's mom. And one woman came and grabbed me. And I told myself, I'm never gonna wear this outfit again. It was all white because her tears soaked into my skin, down into my skin. And she said, you give me the first time permission to cry. And she said, when I lost my daughter, this is not a power of poetry. When I lost my daughter, and here I thought it was only mothers of men. And she said, my Sandra Bland. And then I just kind of put that and held her and whispered poetry into her ear. Talk about the power of poetry, right? When I think about the ecosystem, and I'm glad you used that word, poetry is also about sharing the space. I'm probably never going to be contracted to do anything, and I don't subcontract somebody else in the room. That's why when you heard me, you hear this powerful Mama Fassi all the way from Ghana on the drums here, because I hear poetry, but I hear the beat, the heartbeat behind it. That's why you hear other voices behind it. I say that to say this: if you have been given a voice in any type of way, you make sure you pull people into that voice, or your voice is absolutely nonsense and useless.
That's the power behind it. Thank you so much, everyone. Very, very powerful words, inspiring words. I just can't thank you enough for your artistry and your brilliance and your inspiration. I know I had said we were going to take questions, but instead, I would like to encourage you to stick around. We have a reception in the room just down the hall. I want to thank Cuyahoga County Public Library for this space, for commissioning these poems, for commissioning this amazing painting, and for everyone here today. Thank you for joining us, and follow these artists, buy their work, commission their work. Have a great weekend.